Well, the new cabinet ministers and their deputies have been sworn in just a short while ago at the Union Buildings in Pretoria. This comes after President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa announced changes to his cabinet last night. For more on the reshuffle, we're joined by eNCA's Govan Whittles, who's tracking this story for us here on the Midday View this hour. Govan, good afternoon. Well done, I must say that, for getting Godongwana, the new incoming finance minister, just fresh off the swearing in on his way to the office to begin to familiarize himself with the challenges. What has stood out for you in this ceremony this morning?
Well, what stood out, Bradan, some of the comments by the new finance minister, it doesn't appear that there will be any departure from the economic position and approach that the administration of President Cyril Ramaphosa has taken. And they've been criticized for taking a position of adopting austerity budgets and reprioritizing spending, making significant cuts in other departments to fund the response to the COVID-19 pandemic on the health front, as well as on the stimulus front, where they're trying to stimulate the economy. And an interesting comment there was from Godongwana regarding that controversial Tito Manifesto, which is a document which sets out the government's approach, which according to the reports, was drafted by Mboweni and had not been canvassed beforehand in the ANC or with the alliance partners and among some officials in the Treasury before it was adopted by the minister, and is also endorsed by the president. And Godongwana saying, well, it was drafted in August, but in September the ANC officially did adopt that document, and he does believe that it is legitimate and they should continue with that. I say that's interesting because the Labour constituencies and community constituencies have criticized the Treasury's approach during the pandemic, saying that you can't have an austerity budget when you're trying to get out of negative growth, and they've called for a more progressive finance minister to be appointed. And Godongwana is still the chair of the ANC's Economic Transformation Committee and has been promoting a number of economic interventions which the Labour constituency has applauded. Doesn't appear that he'll take those into the Treasury. Instead, he'll continue with the line of march which was set by Tito Mboweni. And he made some of his views known in an opinion piece, and the market seems to have stabilized following his appointment. I think that we have one of the clips ready where he's giving some comments. Let's have a look at it now.
I bring to Treasury not new ideas. Maybe there's a difference in style. If you'll recall, when Tito produced what was called the Tito document, it was in August, I can't remember the year. The ANC had to discuss that document September, 30th of September, by that specific year, I can't remember now. The ANC had also adopted that document. So there's no, from an ANC perspective, something called a Tito document and an ANC document.
We saw after the announcement of your appointment, the rand lost 25 cents and then regained it, showing that the market is quite stable following your appointment. And yet South Africans still criticizing your previous tenure in government, particularly as Deputy Minister of Public Enterprises and your stint as MP. What's your response to that criticism?
Look, a deputy minister really does not take full accountability of the department. The test of my capabilities is whether will I be able to steer the ship as a Minister of Finance in these particular circumstances. I think that's where the test is going to be.
Yeah, well, Mr. Godongwana getting ready there. I guess, Govan, he had to say things not to scare off anybody because he's just starting. Hopefully he stays like that, because everybody's been wondering, you know, who will be next. Because nobody expected last night the president to announce that Tito Mboweni had gone. We'd all been talking about the security cluster. What is he going to do about the security cluster? What about the health department? And then bang, the finance portfolio became available. And judging by what happened a few years ago, how the markets reacted when there was a change in National Treasury, I'm sure this one was thought, they had to think about this one very carefully. So his initial comments will be measured as well. But just the other point, the atmosphere in that room during the swearing in, the live visuals that we saw, was very buoyant, and people were laughing, and the acting Chief Justice, Raymond Zondo, also chuckling quite a bit. What was your sense about the mood in the room, so to speak?
Well, Braden, I must admit we weren't allowed into that room because of the COVID protocols, so we also watched the feed along with other South Africans in the holding room just outside it, and we noted what appeared to be a jovial atmosphere, but we weren't in there, so I can't say that with authority. But regarding the ministers, I also had an opportunity to speak to the new health minister, Dr. Joe Phaahla, about him coming into this position after having served as deputy minister for 2 ministers, and whether he has any urgent priorities. Of course, his full attention, he says, will be focused on responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. He says he will be focused on the prevention of the spread of COVID-19, but also have an even deeper focus on rolling out that vaccine program and speeding it up. And then saying, Dr. Phaahla admitting that from the onset he would like to instill a sense of responsibility in all of the department staff regarding the integrity of the COVID-19 funds. He says that all procurement processes must be approached with integrity, and he doesn't want any further reports of alleged corruption at the health department. And says one of the other priorities for him would be to try and achieve universal health care within this last term, which is about 2 more years. And his focus, he says, would be on the national health insurance. The pilot project has finished. There's a lot to correct within it, and we know that some MPs say that the bill would still need at least 1 or 2 more years before they feel it could be fully rolled out. But Dr. Joe Phaahla identifying it as one of his priorities on day 1 as the health minister.
Yeah, there's a lot of work for them, but I think Joe Phahla's appointment didn't come as a surprise, really. As you say, he's been a deputy minister under the previous two ministers, and I think we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen now going forward, but it is done and dusted. A couple of deputy ministers as well. Did you get a chance to speak to any of them?
No, I didn't, Braden. The way that this has been arranged is that they essentially allocated us about 15 minutes. Here behind me is the boardroom where the new ministers and deputy ministers have gone for a briefing, and our interviews with the ministers was a courtesy afforded to us because they wanted to say something before they begin their new jobs. But the rest of them are in this briefing meeting, and it looked like they would leave the commentary up to their principals, the ministers in the office.
Thank you very much, Govan Whittles, and well done again for getting Enoch Godongwana soon after he was sworn in as the new incoming finance minister. We know how important that portfolio is in the country, and we know that a lot of work has to be done to recover this economy. Enoch Godongwana, the new man in that hot seat, as the old cliche goes.